again, long story short, I sold enough of that stuff to buy furniture, living room, dining room, and some bedroom furniture. Oh, the kitchen table and chairs for an apartment. And we moved.
To an apartment, a bigger
to
apartment.
an apartment over on Wabada.
Happy then, huh?
Yeah. Your mother found the place. She had hired somebody to come and work on a screen door of hers over there on Margaretta. And he, somehow or another, she knew his wife with him. And they got to talking, and he said, I was working on a place the other day over on Wild, and it sure is a nice place. Boy, somebody needs a place. That sure is a nice place. And she said, my sister's looking for a place. Well, you need to call him. And we did, and we got the place.
And where on Wabada?
5046 Wabada.
What was the apartment like?
It was upstairs. It was a two-family apartment building. It was upstairs. We had a living room, dining room, kitchen, and 3 bedrooms.
That's pretty big, huh?
Yeah, it was a good sized place just for the two of us. And Terry had not been born. She was born there.
What was the rent at the place?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that. I don't remember. Wasn't bad because I paid an extra $5 or $10 for. I had a 2-car garage. I got half of the garage.
So you lived there from when? From right after you got married? Well, shortly after you were
Shortly
married.
after I got married. It was just, we stayed over on Whittier for like, I don't know, a couple of months, 3 months. And then we moved over there. And Terry was born on Wabada, and Connie was born on Wabada.
Oh, so you were there for a couple of years then?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
talk about when Terry was born.
Oh, when Terry was born, that was kind of nice too. I was worked a lot of hours, and Lottie had stopped working. She was at home, and the night that she had to go to the hospital, she called Barbara and Merle. Well, she went over to your house, and then when Merle got home, he decided he better take her on to the hospital. So they called me. I was working that evening, and I left work and went to the hospital. And she had the baby not too long after that, and that was a new experience. They laughed at me. They laughed because I wanted to check everything. I was checking to see if she had 10 fingers and 10 toes and all of that. And one thing I remember about her more than is she had hair everywhere. All on her face, they're all everywhere, ears. But then we brought Terry home, and Lottie went back to work. And
Who took care of the baby?
well, I don't know what happened. We must have had shifts that intermeshed, because most of the time I was babysitting or she was babysitting, and I don't remember us having anybody come. Right after the baby came, my mother came for just a very short period of time, 2-3 weeks. And Viv came for about the same amount of time. But after that, somehow or another, we worked it out. Because I would take care of Terry, and Lottie would take care of Terry. And then, but my goodness, it was only, a year until Connie was born? Yeah.
And was that Lottie still working?
And she kept on working. Let me see, did she work? She didn't work much longer after Connie was born, I don't think.
So she's still working in the OR?
Mm-hmm.
At St. Mary's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So all of a sudden you got 2 babies.
All of a sudden we got 2.
And what happened? You remember when Connie was born?
Yeah, I remember that. Pretty much the same like when Terry was born. Now, I don't remember who took her to the hospital. I don't know if that was Merle. I think that might have been Doug. Doug may have taken her to the hospital.
So you've been friends with them for how long?
Oh yeah, well, now, when we moved on Wabada, which was what I said 2-3 months after we got married, it wasn't more than a month or two after that that Doug and Brunetta got married. And they asked us if they could have their reception at our house on Wabada.
At the apartment?
That's when I met Doug. That's what I had run into him and we talked and all that, you know, taking those girls back and forth back to the, when we were dating them, you know.
Because they were friends.
They were not close friends. They were just in the class together, you see. When you go to the nursing school to pick them up, you had to go into this place, ask the sister to page them. Sister would page them, and you would sit in this lounge and wait for them. And then they would come down and meet you, and then you'd have to go out and greet the sister and leave. And then you had to have them back by a certain time. And then you'd bring them back, you see. Well, we'd all meet in that lounge waiting for them, and we'd meet bringing them back at the same time because we had the same schedule, you see. And or whenever they had dances, we were all there. So I met Doug back and forth. You know, he was just one of the guys. But when he got married, that's when I really met him, you see, because he had his reception at our house.
How was that reception?
I wasn't there. I had to work.
So you didn't go?
I didn't go. I had to work. In those days, you didn't take off. You know?
So you moved to Bessie after the second child, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when would that have been?
Brian was born either the week or the second week after we moved on to Bessie.
So how did you end up moving over there?
Looking for a house. I think Lottie wanted a house again. I probably wanted a house then too. And we've been looking at houses. We just kept on looking until we saw that house over there and bought it. Lottie didn't like it, but we bought it anyhow.
She didn't like it when you bought it, or?
She didn't like it when we bought it.
Did she like it afterward?
Nope. She never did like that house.
Now you told me earlier she doesn't like this house either.
I know.
So she hasn't liked any of the houses you've ever lived in?
Well, now, when we first moved here, she, I think this was kind of overwhelming to her. And she, because I told her, and she'll deny that right now. I said, look, Lottie, I cannot keep this house by myself. We've got to work together to try to keep this house up together. I said, so you got to tell me, you're going to be with me on this? And she said, yeah, okay, fine. So we moved in. Nah, talk to her now. She loves this house. She keeps talking about wanting to sell it. I would miss this house, really, because she likes having kids come. She likes, like the Wisenhunts were here. She enjoyed having them here and having a place for them to come, and all that. So.
What did she not like about the Bessie house? I would have to ask her that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was she didn't like about the Bessie house.
I think one time one of you was telling me about how much you paid for a house note back then.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
About $100 a month or something?
Yeah, it was like $10, $13 a month. And when she found out how much of that was going on the principal and how much was going on the interest, and I showed her, I said, well, you can pay principal anytime you want to. Every time you pay as much as you. It wasn't. I'll bet you it wasn't 3 years. That house was paid for. She paid it off. Yeah.
So what did you think about the Bessie house?
It was fine for me. I didn't have any problem with that house at all.
You had a lot of projects in that house.
Yeah, and I did a lot of stuff, to make it more comfortable. I enjoyed myself. We worked in the basement and we had a lot of good parties in that basement. And the upstairs, I opened up our front bedroom to where we had more space, into the dormers. I opened that all up. And, oh yeah, it was fine. But we have really run out of space, because let's face it, Connie and Terry were in a room, and Brian and Mike were in the other room, and here comes Kevin. And so we got the three of them in the one room. And those were not big rooms either. And my mother was with me. She was downstairs. She had taken over what was Lottie's sewing room down on the first floor. So we needed a house. We needed a big house. So we, first of all, we thought about building the house down the hill from your folks. And, I spent a lot of money over there. Bought the land, tore the dairy down. We still got the drawings. We had the drawings done. And we were always still looking for a house. We put a contract on a house in Central West End and didn't get it. Somebody else outbid us. And my bookkeeper told me about this house. He says, I got a friend that's he sells stock, and he told me about this guy, and he said how he had gotten this out of an estate, and says that he doesn't have any interest in it. Now, if he can make money right quick, so he'll sell it to you. So you probably be able to get a good price on it. Well, I did get a good price on it, and I ended up buying it, and it was fine. It was enough space for everybody to have a bedroom, and with an extra bedroom, and just everything worked out fine.
You should talk about some of the things that you were building and the projects you had over in the Bessie house.
Well, let's see. When we moved in there, we had living room and dining room when you first walked in. Then you walk on through, and to the right was the bathroom, and there was a kitchen, and then the family room, and in the back there was like a sun porch, which we made a sewing room out of. All right, and then you go up the stairs, and there were 3 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs. Okay, so my projects, the front bedroom was our bedroom. It was bigger than the 2 smaller rooms on the back side, but it didn't take up the whole front of the house. There were little dormers on each side. So I ended up cutting through the walls and opening those dormers up so that it could become part of our bedroom, and we had furniture in there, and it made a bigger bedroom. I did that, and then I redid the 2 bedrooms for the kids up there, and on the bathroom upstairs I put tile on the wall and tried to dress that up some. And then downstairs, in that what we use as a family room, I dressed that up by sanding the floors, paneling one wall, and put up bookshelves. We had hundreds and hundreds of books for those kids. The back room, I made a sewing room for Lottie.
And you had an area up under the front porch steps, I remember.
Okay, well now in the basement, that was in the basement. In the basement, I paneled the whole basement and put a asphalt floor on the floor, and built a bar down there, built a bathroom down there, and then had a little wash area in the back. And that area under the front porch, that was really storage. And I had all kinds of crap stored up under there. But, I had the trains down there. And the trains would run back in there also, So I had the trains all around the basement.
Now, did you ever finish the train?
No. No, just like they're not finished here,
You have the trains here now, right?
Yeah.
And when do you plan to finish that?
When I retire. I got a whole lot more trains now than I ever did, though. I collect those things.
Now, let's see.
So that was the projects that on Bessie. And now I built a patio, a wooden patio on the back, and we had a lot of parties out in the back.
So you all still had a whole lot of parties after you moved there,
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Oh yeah, we had parties in the basement all the time, and in the backyard all the time. All that. We've got pictures of all that stuff.
So let's see, we're up to the third child. You remember when he was born?
He was born a week or two after we moved on Bessie.
What do you remember about that?
Well, I remember that Herbert Todd had to come and babysit when he was born, and no, it wasn't too much, no big deal on that. I took her to the hospital, and that was about it. We brought him home, and he just joined the crowd.
So was it any different now that you had a boy? You had two girls, now you have a boy.
Nah, at first it wasn't. That really didn't make a lot of difference until, he got to be about a year old when I started buying boy toys for him. And man, we bought, our kids had everything just like you guys did. And I tell the truth, I was buying toys that I had missed when I was a kid for him. All kinds of things, trucks and trains and you name it. So yeah, it was different then, and then it really changed when he got to be old enough to start getting into sports. And that's when we had to split it up. Lottie would take the girls to dancing and stuff like that, and I'd take them to baseball and soccer, and then hockey. Oof, hockey. So that's when they really started separating. I would go to all of the recitals and stuff like that, but I wouldn't take them on a weekly basis to the girls. But then the boys, I was involved on a weekly basis with everything that they did.
So what about child number 4? What do you remember about him being born?
When he came along, let's see, was it him? Was that? Yeah, I guess. No, I'm thinking more about Kevin on that. How the girls were so excited when Kevin was born. But I don't know. Again, it wasn't really anything special. He was just I know about when Michael was born. Lottie had a miscarriage in between there, and she was really happy about Michael coming. And after he came, I remember I thought she needed a vacation. She needed to get away, so I took her to Las Vegas. And Donna, Cloyd, kept those 4 kids. Donna's always liked kids, and she's always been into that because Michael was just a baby. Just a newborn baby, and she kept him and the other 3 kids.
For how long?
For a weekend, 3 days, I guess it was.
And she survived that.
Yeah, and she loved it. She's still like that. She gets into it too much, I think. But anyhow, she kept the kids, and I took Lottie to Las Vegas, and that is one of the few times when Lottie. Well, actually, both of us really enjoyed being out there. We did a lot of things together, and we'd win money. And as soon as we win money, I'd take her downtown, and she'd go buy stuff. She was buying stuff for herself, and she was really enjoying that.
And that was one of the first times that you guys had gone there.
Yeah, it wasn't. We hadn't been. Maybe that was maybe the third or fourth time we've been there, I guess. But and I can remember we've been going all day long and up into the night, and we decided to go to bed. And shoot, man, I went to bed and I could hear all that ching, 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 and I thought, I ain't going, I'm getting up. So I sneaked up out of the bed and went to put some water on my face and turned around, and there she was. She said, "Where are you going?" I said, I got to go back. I can't. She said, "Wait a minute, I'm going too." So we went back out there, you know. We had a good time. I remember that, and that was when Michael was born. Yeah.
Right after he was born.
Mm-hmm.
And then, last but not least, child number 5.
Yeah, when he came along, boy, I tell you, the kids, Connie and Terry, I never forget when Connie couldn't get her breath. She was so, when she saw him for the first time. He was born, and we really didn't know that. We thought it was over, but here he came along. And it seemed like he grew up so fast, though. He grew up so fast. Before I knew it, he was running all over that neighborhood over there on Bessie. Yeah, because I worried about him. He was a lot younger than the Hennigan's little boy across the street, but that's who he was running with, you know.
So how were the 5 children different from each other when they were younger? As kids?
Terry was kind of quiet and reserved. Brady, very smart. I can remember how I used to sit with Terry and teach her stuff, and how she could retain that so easy. It's like, her son draws. He's a very good artist. A lot of people don't know Terry could draw too, and because she never did pursue that. But I sat with Terry and taught her how to draw the face of a person. I said, draw a circle like this, and she'd draw a circle. And I'd say, and then you have to do eyes like this, and I would show her how to make an eye, and she would do that. And I'd say, and then a mouth like this, and she would do it. And I'd say, and then a nose. And I said, remember on the nose, you got 2 little holes here, so you make a little dot there and a dot there, and she'd do that. And I said, oh, and what's over the eyes, and what's got to put them up there. She'd put the eyebrows, and then I'd show her how to make circles like that for hair. And I don't remember how old she was, but she was very young. But because somebody, I don't know if it was a doctor or somebody later on says, boy, she is young to know how to do that. All that detail. Most kids can't do that detail, when they draw. But I remember that specifically. But there were a lot of things that were when she was a youngster that you could tell that she was a pretty bright young lady. Was just a go-getter. She's an extrovert boy, and you really didn't know that Connie was as brainy as she was. And I'll tell you, the first time that I really found out just how smart Connie was, they all made good grades. They are all in school. They did very well. But when Connie went to Rosati Kane, they have that entrance exam, and there was some part of that entrance exam that she had made the highest score that had ever been made in the history of the school, except for like 2 kids or something like that. And they told us about that. I told Lottie that not too long ago, and she doesn't remember that. And I said, well, we have to go to school, and I'm going to show you that that's true. I remember them telling me that. But that's when I realized, I said, whoa, man. I said, I knew Connie was smart, but I didn't know she was that smart. They were pretty smart kids. Ryan always did well in school, very good in math, extra good in math. Never had any trouble with any of our kids, uh, all the way through. Didn't have any problems with them. As far as them being one different from the other, each one of them had a different personality. Brian was a handyman. He loved to do, like, all those projects that I had. He liked to get involved with that, and I used to teach him a lot of stuff. In fact, I did that with all the kids, but I did it with him more than any of them. They'd have the school projects and all this kind of stuff, and have kids to come home and do these things. And he'd go back to school with something that was really into it, really complicated, and they always thought that I did it. I told him what to do and how to do it, but I always made him do it himself. If he had to use a saw, I'd tell him, this is how you do it, but you got to do it yourself. Or we did a lot of electronic stuff, and I said, no, this is where this wire's got to go here, and you got to use this solder gun, you got to solder it, and this is the way, and I teach him all of that. He did it all himself, but he loved it. And Lottie's got a bracelet upstairs right now that he made out of a piece of wood, and cut it out, and carved the designs in it, and sanded it all down, and stained it, and the whole thing, And he was a youngster then. A real youngster. So we did a lot of stuff like that. Mike was not that much into that kind of thing, and Mike was not that much into sports either, as Brian was. Brian loved all the sports, but Mike didn't get involved until he got into hockey. He liked hockey. Michael had much more of a temper than any of the rest of them. And Kevin was I always thought, I don't know how Kevin can live. He was a little skinny dude, boy. I thought he ain't eating enough to keep him alive. And he started playing soccer. And he was a star on the soccer team. And I thought, how in the world can that little skinny boy be so good out there on the soccer team? But he did well in school as well. And he did well on the soccer team, and he played basketball. He liked basketball. He was pretty good at that. That's about it.
What do you remember some of the things that you did with the kids when they were younger, going back to the Bessie days? What are the things that you remember?
Well, we did a lot of things with the kids. When Lottie and I got married, our honeymoon was to go to Chicago. But Lottie had never been to Chicago before. And we went to the Indiana Dunes State Park. And went out on the beach and all that. And
is that where that whole movie comes from?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, so I took the kids there several times, and they really enjoyed that. I took the kids to Excelsior Springs. On the weekend, we took them to Silver Dollar City. And the one big vacation, we took a trip to California. We flew from here to Los Angeles, rented a car, and stayed in Los Angeles for a while and drove all around. We drove down through San Diego, down to Mexico. We took them to Mexico and spent some time there, drove back up, and drove up to Fresno and visited with those folks, and then drove from Fresno out to Las Vegas, and we met our friends from over on Bessie in Las Vegas, and then we drove from Las Vegas back to Los Angeles, and then we left Los Angeles and drove up to San Francisco, and had a great time at all those different places. The kids just had a ball, staying in different hotels and all that kind of stuff, and seeing all kinds of, they can tell you, all kinds of things they saw. So we went a lot of places with the kids. We took them all kinds of different places.
Any other vacations you can remember?
With them,
Mm-hmm.
they down to Louisiana. We went there several times and enjoyed that. And that, of course, was a different kind of experience with those folks down there. The kids, of course, were fascinated with the people in Louisiana.
Well, now you said you didn't go down there for a while. What was your first impression when you went 7 or 8 years after you got married?
Like I'd gone to a different country, I'll tell you.
Speak a different language.
Yeah. I remember the first time we went down there. It was all the whole family. We drove down in that little red Nova station wagon that we had, and when we got there, Lottie's mother got Lloyd and Peggy over to the house and their kids, and then they started bringing the neighbors over to see what I looked like, and drinking beer like it was going out of style, and I got to be extra special friends with the man that owned the liquor store not too far from there, and in those days, I was wondering how it was segregated in those days, and I didn't know how well things were going to work with me walking in and out of that store down there, and shoot, that guy started waiting on me in front of everybody else.
Spent so much money in there,
Spent
probably.
so much money in there, right? But that was enjoyable. We had a very good time, and the kids did too. And then there was one year we went to New Orleans. My pharmacy group organization had a convention down in New Orleans, and we went there with all the kids, and they had a ball there. When we were there, that's interesting. Denise came. Somehow or another, Denise came and stayed with us at the hotel there, and the kids had her there to be with them. And that reminds me of another vacation we took. We took a vacation, took all the kids to down to the Lake of the Ozarks.
Okay, save that because the tape's about to run out.